So we're back in the same composition here, and we actually saw that After Effects had some really big problems on tracking where there's a lot of motion blur, and it would really take us on a frame-by-frame basis to get the whole thing basically tracked. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a program called Mocha, which comes with After Effects. And we're going to have a look at what Mocha is going to do with it. In order to do that, I still have this tracker information on this footage. See, it doesn't really matter, you know. What you need to do is you need to have your footage here selected. And what we're going to do is we're going to hit animation in the animation tab here. We're going to say track in Mocha After Effects. Mocha is basically a standalone application from Imagineering Software, which is a UK-based company, and it has a very, very advanced tracker, and it's not a point tracker as we use in After Effects, but it has a planar surface tracker. So let's have a look. So we hit track in Mocha After Effects. Once that is done, Mocha is gonna open, and it's gonna come with this first tab here where we have the name of the composition, and it will basically take all the settings from the footage that we are gonna try to track. So let's have a look, and we just hit OK on this one. This file was already made, so I'm just gonna overwrite it, no problem. Okay, so there we go. So now we're in Mocha. This is another application, so it's basically a standalone application. And let's first have a look at what Mocha actually does. So we have our footage here, and we have this timeline. Okay, so you can grab your timeline thing here, and then what you see is you get your footage. Mocha is a planar tracker, which means that in Mocha we will actually look at a plane, which is a flat surface on our footage, and we will try to track this whole plane. Okay, so let me just first show a little few things that you need to know when you want to browse into Mocha. So first of all, you can easily scrub through your footage over here. You can play it forward, you can stop it, you can play it backwards, all like this. Next thing you need to know is to zoom into this window. You need to hold down the Z key, and you just hold it down, and then you can put your mouse up and down, and it will zoom. And next to it is the X key, and that you will use to pan around. So I can actually zoom in here. Let's zoom into where we have a very good look at our footage. Put the X key down, and okay, just go like that. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a spline around the iPhone, and in order to do that, I'm going to use here the create an X spline. You can choose a Bezier spline, which we know in After Effects, but I like to use the X spline thing here. So just selected this icon, and I'm gonna draw loosely around the iPhone. I'm gonna draw a rectangle because all the information in the background is actually green, and this is a planar surface on the iPhone. Just gonna drag, so I just hit my left mouse button, hit it here again, hit it here, hit it one more time here, and then to get rid of this point you have to right click on your mouse, and actually you have this closed tracking thing. You can still adjust these points slightly just to make sure. So you see it's a little loose, it's not very close to it. And Mocha will also, so as soon as you go hover over a point or select a point, Mocha is going to show a window here where it's actually zooming into the point there. So if you want to really position it very tightly into something, then you can you easily see it magnified over there. If you don't want to see those magnify windows, I think it's over here. No, it's zoom, show zoom windows. You can turn it off here, or you can turn it on over here. So what you also see is that Mocha has made a new layer, okay, and I'm gonna just rename it. Hit enter if you select it, and I'm gonna call it the iPhone track. Enter. You don't need to do that, but I'm gonna do it. So, and you see After Effects, Mocha has made a new keyframe here. It's the green dot, which you see basically over here. Let's zoom in a little bit. It's this green little dot. Okay, so what you can do now is you can start tracking backwards, or you can start tracking forwards. And we need to tell Mocha what to really look for. What it's going to happen here is we have translation, scale, rotation, and shear on. But I'm also going to put perspective on. It's going to take a little bit longer, but since what's happening here is that as soon as we get this thing going away, I mean, we have some perspective. Yeah, there's a little bit of perspective shift there. So before I'm going to start tracking, I'm actually going to jump back to this keyframe. So you can do that by hitting this key, go to previous keyframe, and Mocha is going to jump back here. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit. No, I'm not going to zoom out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this activate quick stabilize mode. So what it's going to do is, while Mocha is tracking, it's always going to stay focused on to this area here. So first of all, I'm going to track backwards. All right, let's have a look at this. And for the selected point here, you can easily see the current frame and the next keyframe. So I mean the next keyframe, which is this point, and the current frame. So you see it's almost really standing still. It's very accurately tracking. And it takes a little while, so I'm gonna pause the video and I'm gonna let Mocha do what it's best, or 2, maybe 3 minutes to track the whole thing. And you see Mocha is right now here, and this whole blue line is basically what Mocha actually tracked. So let's go back. Okay, since we have this stabilize button here on, Mocha is always gonna stay focused on this area here. I didn't put perspective on. You can do that later, but for now I'm just gonna leave perspective off. And look at what Mocha did at the let's maybe just turn this off for a second and zoom out. So you hit the Z key and you zoom out. Well, let's have a look what Mocha actually did at those difficult keyframes. So look at that, and it actually followed completely until the iPhone was off the screen, but it took a minute or two. So before we continue and gonna track here forward, I'm just going back to this first to the single keyframe that I've made, and I'm going to go to previous keyframe. And before I'm going to track forward, let's just have a look at what we are actually doing. So we told Mocha to track this whole surface, which we tell Mocha it's a flat surface. So all these points basically are on the same plane. That's very important, that you select objects that you put your X-spline around things that are on the same planar object, on the same surface. Before I'm going to continue to track forward, we're going to put on something which is basically this here, show the planar surface. So if we hit that, actually what we are doing here is, with this X-spline that we've drawn, we've just told Mocha what to track. But this is basically not containing the tracking data. What we are going to apply the tracking data to is to this so-called planar surface. So I'm again going to zoom in a little bit, hit the Z key and zoom in. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put this activate quick stabilize mode on. So if I scrub through the footage, you see it's actually going to keep my surface, oops, see, it's always going to keep the focus on my surface. And what I'm going to do is with this planar surface on, I'm going to put these corners exactly on where we are on the end of the screen. So we have 4 corners here. Put this one there. I'm going to put this one over there, and I'm going to put this one over there. Okay. All right. So we actually, with the X-spline, we actually tell Mocha what points to track, and the tracking data is going to be applied to this planar surface, which is in blue. You can also put on, for instance, show the planar grid, okay? And this grid is actually a grid that is showing you how the surface is actually oriented. So you see, it's completely following this thing. I think it's very interesting when we do this, okay? And have a look at the, while we're dragging down here, have a look at how Mocha actually kept on tracking those corners of the planar surface here. It's actually completely perfect all the way down. All right, so now we're going to go back to this last keyframe, and I'm going to hit Analyze Forward, and let's have Mocha continue tracking. Let's just have a look at it for a while, then I'm going to pause the video. So see how perfectly these corners are really staying into the screen. Okay, and I'll come back when the tracking is done. Guys, all the way in the back. Let's just scrub back and see what Mocha did with those last keyframes, because they are the tough ones, of course. So let's have a look here and maybe go frame by frame. We can do that here. Next frame, next frame, next frame. Still, we have this stabilize option on, so it's gonna stay focused on this here. We may have some slightly drift because there's a lot of motion blur here. That's not really a big issue, I think. He's still doing a very, very good job. Here we're off. I mean, the phone actually turns quite a bit. So we're actually off here. So next thing we can do is we can manually continue or try to continue to track this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the last good keyframe. So let's search for the last good keyframe. This one is done already. So let's say that this is the last good keyframe. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the adjust track. But make sure that you're really on the last good keyframe before you hit this button here, adjust track. So let's hit the adjust track button. And what you will see now is that Mocha has made another keyframe over here. And it will actually allow us to manually track for the next few points. But I'm not going to do this on a frame by frame basis. I'm actually going to scrub through and go to a point where it's really going wrong. So maybe on this frame here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take this point and actually drag it to where it is supposed to be. So that's supposed to be over there. And then this one, I can follow this line, and it's probably supposed to go over there. Okay. And then let's scrub further, and there the iPhone is already gone, so no big deal. So we've done that. And maybe also here. Let me just have a look at this. No, I think this is quite okay. So basically, we are done. So Mocha did the whole track for us, and let's just make sure that we can go from here to there. Okay, not really a big deal. and go from there to there. Okay, so we're good. So now we need to export our tracking data back into After Effects. To do that, we're going to hit this button, Export Tracking Data. Just hit it, and you can select here a few things. We have a few options here. We have After Effects Cornerpin, After Effects Cornerpin supporting motion blur, and After Effects Transform Data. What we need is After Effects Cornerpin supporting motion blur. What this option will actually do is it will actually transport the position data, because that's where After Effects calculates its motion blur on. It will copy it back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit copy to clipboard. Okay, and I'm going to switch back to After Effects. Okay, we're back in After Effects. So we have in the clipboard, we have our tracking information. So let's now put a new, so this one is, I'm going to recall this one, and I'm going to recall it the AE track. So that's the AE track, After Effects track, and I'm going to insert the same thing here, iOS screen, back again on top of it. And what I'm going to do now is you have to make sure that you are in the beginning of your timeline, because in After Effects we started tracking from the beginning. In Mocha we started tracking from the beginning, so there is data from the beginning. Go back to After Effects, so make sure that your timeline is now all the way in the beginning. You hit your layer here and you hit Command V to put in the tracking data for your Mocha track. I'm gonna take this one away here. So basically what you see now is that here is my screen. It does a very nice job, but it is not in the right place. So that is a bit of a problem, because Mocha is also applying some Cornerpin data to this, but it really needs to have a layer which is actually the same size of a composition. So let's make sure we're going to do this. First of all, I'm going to hit Control Z, do it again. And what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to go to edit. No, I'm going to edit. Hang on. I'm going to layer and hit here in the transform. I'm going to say fit to comp. Okay, so now this layer is resized and it's fitted to this composition. Okay, and now let's try the same thing again. I'm going to hit, I'm in the beginning of the timeline, and I'm going to hit Command V. And we still have the same problem. So, okay, I'm going to Control Z. What we need to do is we need to pre-compose this. So I'm going to select my layer. You can right click on your mouse, but you don't see the pre-compose option here. So I'm going to do it over here. So I'm going to layer pre-compose all the way in the bottom here. Hit pre-compose. And I'm just going to rename this iOS pre-comp. And I'm going to move all the attributes into the new composition, and I'm going to hit OK. And if I now apply my Cornerpin data by hitting Command V, it still looks completely wrong. No, it looks great. The only thing is that we don't, I mean, the Cornerpin data was good until here. So what I'm going to do, you see, we lost the Cornerpin but the iPhone is also off the track, so we don't really need this information anymore. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this layer here, and I'm going to make sure that we don't see those keyframes. I mean, we don't see those frames. And all the way in the back also, we're going to hit, I mean, like where the phone completely disappears. This is not good. I should have taken that one into account as well. Anyway, let's go for this frame here and say it has to be disappeared. No, it's not good. So we're gonna have to jump back into Mocha, go back to Mocha, and go to the end here. I'm gonna really go frame by frame. Okay, this one is okay, and then this last one here, I'm gonna hit the X key. See, the data is still here, and you still see the phone here, so that's not a good thing. So we need to adjust this as well. So in order to do that, we have to take our spline. I'm gonna zoom out a little bit, hit the Z key, zoom out a little bit, and pan a little bit down. There we go. Select the spline again, and we need to bring all these points. Actually, we need to bring all these points to the right place. So I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do that. Okay, zoom out again a little bit. I'm just going to try to mimic, you know, what's left of this thing here. So there's not really much information, but let's anyway search for it. Well, let's try to get the aspect of the phone, you know, just a little bit the way it's supposed, you think it is supposed to be. When you select one of those points, Mocha is actually going to try to show you what it is on the master frame and what it is on the current frame. So I think maybe this is just good. So we have all the data all the way to the back. Okay, so this is good. Okay, we're going to do the same thing. Export tracking data, copy to clipboard, go back to After Effects, go to this layer here and hit Command V. Well, let's have a look now. So this is good, and all the way onto the back, onto the last frame. Yeah, this is working just fine. Okay. All right, and the only thing you see now, for instance, is that when you put on, I mean, when we actually really, where it's really very heavily moving, you know, so like here, there's no motion blur on the screen here. We can simply do this by activating motion blur, enable motion blur, and also enable motion blur on this layer. And now this is what it's looking like. So it's all the way motion blurred, and you get, you know, you hardly see that it's not real, do you? So let's have a look at this. Phone comes in. There we go. We have a completely solid track there. Let's go a little bit to the back. Still complete, fantastic track. And there we go. So, perfect, right? All thanks to Mocha.